just hold on a moment until that's done. So welcome to all of you to the UBC Dietetics Undergraduate Program, Year 5 Practice Education Placement Preceptor Orientation. I wanted to start by recognizing that we're all joining from various unceded lands of different Indigenous people and nations. I'm a first-generation Canadian, and I grew up learning and playing on the lands of the Tsawwassen and Kwantlen nations. And today I'm joining you from my home. I'm on the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Solo, Squamish, and Coast Salish nations, as well as a Hokuminam treaty group. So I learn a lot from our dietetic students. One of our current students, who themselves is Indigenous, has helped me to learn and maybe more importantly to unlearn, and recently shared with me some of their favorite Indigenous artists. So this gave me motivation to celebrate with you a couple Indigenous creators who I've come to enjoy following and supporting. The print on the left is by Michelle Stoney, and they're a Gitxsan artist here in BC. And through her art, she also raises money for various things that are important to her. And on the right is the screen capture of the first of a series of really awesome and beautiful books by author and artist Brett Hewson, also of the Gitxsan Nation. And the books follow the life cycle of wildlife found on or near Gitxsan Nation. I encourage you to check them out. They're really nice. The handles are on the screen if you want to learn more. So by the end of today's orientation, we hope that you're going to be able to walk away with a clear sense of who the UBC Dietetics undergrad team is, as well as an introduction to the program's mission, vision, and values in the context of practice education, as well as what the Year 5 placements will look like for you as a preceptor and our students, including the learning outcomes for placements, how students are evaluated, weekly schedules as some examples, what all of our roles and responsibilities are during practice education, including you as a preceptor, the student, and us here at UBC. And then finally, we're going to be wrapping up by sharing where and how you can learn more if you still have questions. So I'm Tamara Kafka, and Ali Browse and I are here today. You can see Ali with her video on there. And we're two of the UBC Dietetics educators with the Dietetics Undergraduate Program. And we're really fortunate that there's 4 of us working the program right now, all in the same role. So in addition to myself and Ali, we have Kara Boat and Gordon Lee. You can see pictures of them on our team on the screen there. We all work together really closely. And as educators with the program, we are also course instructors for the dietetics practice education courses. So that includes all of the Year 5 placements that you will be precepting for. So we're going to have a more direct role in practice education than we've had in the past, and I will elaborate more on this throughout the session. Ultimately, the 4 of us are your direct contacts for anything to do with placement planning and student activities or performance while they're in their placements with you. So there are a lot of us here today, and while we'd love to do a roundtable of introductions, we've learned the hard way that by trying to say hello to everyone, that takes up a good portion of the whole orientation session. So instead, we're going to do it virtually with a quick Zoom poll to see who's here and who you are. So Ali's going to launch the poll. We have 3 polls. They're quite short. The first one is, where are you joining from today? Ali's posted a link to the regions in BC if you're curious about looking at those and getting some clarity in terms of where you're joining from. Okay, it looks like about 70% are joining from mainland Southwest, including the Fraser Valley. We have about 12% from Vancouver Island and the coast, and 15% from Thompson, Okanagan. Right, so we'll go on to the next poll. The next poll is, what do you consider your primary area of practice? We have nutrition care and clinical, population health, management and leadership, mixed, and other. Okay, so we have about 70% from nutrition care, 10% from population health, and 14% management and leadership, 3% mixed, and 4%, 3 of you here indicated that you do something else, other. Thank you. The last question we have is, what is your precepting experience? Ellie will launch that in a moment. Okay, so we have about 25% is a first time coming up, so lots of first time preceptors, and about 30%, 1 to 5 years, and 46% have been precepting for over 5 years. Thank you. Okay, so well, the UVC Dietetics program is committed to advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion, and that's for the program and our students, and ultimately the dietetics profession. This is a picture that we took of some of our dietetics students. This is the group of students who just completed their first nutrition care placement. This is the group of students who just completed their first nutrition care placement with the dietetics program. They just completed their 3rd year of dietetics, or their 1st year in the dietetics program. They're the first group of students to complete the new 6-week placement model. And they're a reminder to us of the community of wonderful students that we get to work with and learn from in the program, and the incredible talent of our students and their passion to embrace and be a part of something new. They were pioneers as students as part of the new program model, and they really did embrace that. We're all coming to precepting with our own personal, but also social and structural biases, some of it very much unconscious. And I want to mention this in order to recognize that who we are and our journey of life experiences will likely influence how we precept, our approach, and our perspectives. So we've had 2 equity, diversity, and inclusion consultants review our program, and we've been able to make really substantial changes to, I would say, almost every aspect of our program throughout the last 2.5 years to enhance fairness and address some of the inequities in our process. Now, this is nowhere near complete, and it's an ongoing process, so there's always a lot more work to do, and I would say we're far from finished as well. For some perspective, from a practice education placement perspective, more than 1/3 of our students have circumstances that influence where and how they do their placements. So this is a really important reflection of the varied lives and abilities and experiences that our students are coming to placements with. And we have a new policy for the program. It's called Respectful Learning Environments. Now, in that policy, we define respectful learning environments as those that are welcoming to participants with diverse lived experiences, is actively anti-racist and committed to improvement. These environments are free from all forms of discrimination, bullying, and harassment. The program takes concrete steps to encourage and enable respectful learning environments in all program activities. Ali's posted a link to all our policies in the chat, and if you go there, you can find the respectful learning environment policy as well. Now, we're sharing this policy with you, and we also shared it with our Year 5 students who are currently in their orientation week. We have sessions with them throughout the week this week. We really welcome you to take a look at that policy and review it to see what's in there, because we will be upholding the policy throughout practice education, and expect both students and preceptors and us to honor this in the way that we all engage and interact with each other. The policy, like I said, it does define, but it also interprets our understanding of respectful learning environments, and then also actions that can be taken in the event that you or a student either observes or experiences mistreatment with regards to any program activities that you're involved in. So when you registered for this preceptor orientation, we asked you to indicate topics that you've learned about or done training on, as well as topics that you're interested in learning more about. We really wanted to share that survey results with you. We will be using this in order to inform future education sessions and resources. to hopefully help you and students feel more prepared for educational environments so they're both supportive and inclusive. So in this survey, you were able to select all that apply. So that's why these numbers add up to more than 100% for taking a scan at those numbers. In terms of topics that you've learned about, those results are on the left. So 60% of you have done some learning around Indigenous truth and reconciliation. And then implicit bias and anti-racism learning, closer to 30 to 40%. And then disability accessibility was down there at the bottom at 13%. And in terms of topics that you're interested in learning more about, implicit bias really stood out at the top at 60%. And then the other topics, anti-racism, Indigenous truth and reconciliation, and disability and accessibility were all around 50%. We also asked how you wanted to learn about the topics, and I can share that the top choice was online modules at 65%, and the next one was facilitated online workshops. 50% of you were interested in that approach. So in saying that, the UBC Dietetics program, we have a mission and vision statement as well as core values, and these all provide a foundation for our commitment to advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion as it relates to the program's vision of inspiring learners to advance dietetic practice and food systems. Our core values, you can see them up on the screen. They're justice, integrity, inclusion, collaboration, and community focus, and they all drive our approach to program planning and everything that entails. You can find our vision, mission, and values on the program website. I did want to clarify some terminology you're going to be hearing today to make sure we have a shared understanding of what Ali and I are talking about throughout the session. We're no longer using the term internship. Instead, we're going to be using the term practice education or practice education placements. And the reason for this is that student placements are actually UBC courses. They have specific learning outcomes, a syllabus that we'll be taking a look at later today, assignments, and also grades. In this case, it is a pass-fail course. It's a progressive learning experience, and students are meant to be in a learning environment. And that learning environment is intended to prepare them for entry to dietetic practice. So the time you spend with students is called placements or practice education placements. Each placement is 6 weeks long, and you won't hear the terms modules or rotations anymore. I'm going to pass it over to Ali now.
Thanks, Tamar. So Tamar provided an overview of the program's goals and intentions with practice education placements. And now I'm going to give an overview of what Year 5 placements are going to look like for this upcoming academic year. So for the upcoming cohort of Year 5 students, everyone will be completing 6 by 6 week placements. And in placements 1 to 5, students will complete 4 nutrition care focused placements and 1 population health placement. And then for placement 6, all the students are going to be doing a management and leadership focused placement. So today's session, we're going to focus on the nutrition care and the population health components of placements. And I wanted to just emphasize that placements are progressive learning experiences, and students are going to be working towards building their skills and demonstrating placement competencies within each placement. So we often have a lot of questions about what orientation students have done before starting practice education placement. So I'm going to spend a moment talking about the onboarding and orientation students are completing before they come to you. All students are required to complete a core orientation modules for student placements that are actually consistent for all health professional students in British Columbia. The student practice education core orientation, or SPECO modules, are all completed on the Learning Hub, and they're actually similar to things that new staff requirements as well. They include things such as information privacy, safety at work, violence prevention, code red, waste management, etc. But those are the core modules. And then health authority practice education offices have also developed great websites and online resources for student orientation that have helped guide some of these onboarding requirements. In addition to the general student practice orientation students will also complete organization-specific prerequisites as well. And I haven't included them all here, but if you are curious about those additional organization-specific requirements, you can reach out to us at UVC or ask your student, and we have some key contacts at different placement organizations as well that will have helped us work through those requirements. As a part of preparing for placement, students are also prompted to email preceptors 1 or 2 weeks before the placement starts to briefly introduce themselves and confirm when and where to meet on the first day and inquire about typical work hours. So if you have any kind of clarification around onboarding, you can also do it with students at that time too. So then, in addition to completing all the mandatory student placement orientation, students are also attending UVC-led orientation before placement 1. So this is happening right now. We've had 2 students with the session so far. And I've included some of the topics on the slide here that we are covering for students as a resource or a reference for you if you are interested. So now I want to introduce you to some of the specifics of the practice education courses and the resources available to both students and preceptors. So for students, we use the Canvas platform to share course material and resources for assignment submission and we use it for assignment submission. But we've also posted a number of these resources that are applicable to preceptors on our program website. Today, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find this information on our website, and I'll spend some time highlighting some of the key components of the course syllabus and the placement evaluation form. So I think Tamar is going to just post this link in for the preceptor resources in the chat too. If you're having any difficulty locating the resources, then please let us know. I've also included the link on our slide here as a reference for those of you who are watching the recording at a later date. So when you're on the preceptor resource section of our website, you'll see that we have a practice education overview document, and this outlines the new model of practice education placements. There's also a one-page preceptor practice education guide that highlights what preceptors should do before and during a placement. There's a course syllabus and the placement evaluation form, which we're going to be looking at in more detail today. And then finally, some example project ideas for population health preceptors that we actually aren't going to be covering today specifically. But I wanted to highlight that those are available to preceptors if needed, and you are welcome to reach out to us if you need some clarification or some more details there on that. So I now wanted to introduce everyone to the course syllabus. On our website, you'll see that the course syllabus posted is for the first term of practice education. We will also have a syllabus for the winter term 2 and summer term being posted. So the kind of 2023 January to June syllabus will come out in the fall. The syllabus is the primary document that is used to outline what students will be doing in practice education placements, as well as how learning will be assessed. So the key components of the syllabus that we wanted to review with you today include the course structure, the learning outcomes and activities, the approach to assessment, and then finally just highlight the weekly course schedule for you. So I'm going to start with the course structure. Students are typically on site at practice education partner organizations Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they engage in virtual learning with UVC course instructors on Thursday. Students have been informed that in some placement settings, preceptors may work on Saturday and or Sunday, and if this is the case, they would be expected to work on these days. However, they are only required to be at a placement site for 4 days per week total. And then just to highlight again, Thursdays are have required education sessions with UBC, and therefore they will not be on site for practice education placements on Thursday. And this is different than our old model where they had a half day on Thursday. Now they have the whole day on Thursday for UBC teaching, and they are not on sites that day. So to elaborate a little bit more on the course structure, I wanted to emphasize that because students will be doing 6-week placements, this will allow them more time to orientate to a practice setting and the preceptor's role, and then practice and develop their nutrition care or their population health competencies. In addition to working on entry to practice competencies in the practice setting, students will also be completing assignments and participating in workshops to supplement their learning and allow additional opportunities for instructors to assess their learning. So next, I wanted to highlight the course learning outcomes for all Year 5 placements. So nutrition care and population health, and this is for nutrition care and population health placements. However, you should note that learning outcome 1 on the screen here is only applicable for nutrition care focused placements, and learning outcome 2 is applicable for population health focused placements. So the learning outcomes have been developed using the Integrated Competencies for Dietetic Education and Practice, or ICDEP, which is a specific document that outlines the entry to practice expectations for dietetic students. The ICDEP document outlines specific practice competencies and performance indicators, and we have grouped and condensed these items into 8 learning outcomes for practice education placements. Students and preceptors will evaluate based on this list of 8 learning outcomes, and this approach allows a much simpler and shorter evaluation form for placements, which is something that students and preceptors have been asking for in feedback we've gathered annually. And then in the syllabus, you also notice that there are some different assignments and learning activities that students need to complete throughout the term. So for term 1, the assignments are here on the screen. We did not plan to talk through them in detail today, but did want to make you aware of them. Students may use placement time to work through their assignments when appropriate, and students are prompted to inform you about the assignments that they will be working on when they meet with you in week 1 of their placement, just so that you are aware of what they're doing. And assignments are intended to help meet harder to achieve competencies related to the learning outcomes and ICDEP, and they are submitted to the UBC course instructors, which are myself and Tamar and Gordon and Kara, at defined dates. And we will mark them and provide feedback, and this weighs into their overall course grade, which it is a pass-fail, but contributes to their overall kind of assessment of meeting these competencies. So the final part of the syllabus that I wanted to highlight was the course schedule. And you will see at the top, it outlines the week and the placement number. And you can look at the specific placement you'll be supporting and then use it as a guide to find suggested learning activities that build on each other and ultimately support students to meet the course learning outcomes. So remember that students will also be having assignments that they'll be working on to help them meet these learning outcomes. Students are expected to review the weekly schedule as well and to communicate their goals as they relate to the learning activities in the weekly schedule and really communicate those proactively to you. It is really helpful as a preceptor to protect time in week 1 or week 2 to map out the placement time, what the placement's going to look like, and how you can kind of prioritize some of these learning activities with the student too. And again, I would encourage you as a preceptor, if you're looking to look ahead, I know that we only have kind of placement 1 and 2 for term 1 in there, But if you know you're getting a student for those first 2 placements, you can open the syllabus and look through what they will be expected to be doing during those 6 weeks that they are with you. So some of the examples of placement activities that are outlined in the weekly schedule include things such as, at the start, they're observing preceptors to do, watching preceptors do work and then share feedback reflections to preceptors. They also are prompted to do things like conduct nutrition assessments for assigned patients, clients, residents. Maybe they're prompted to attend team meetings or observe communication and teamwork, or take a tour of the food service operations at the site. And also just spending time with interprofessional colleagues to observe and learn about their roles. And again, students can communicate their need to prioritize and seek out these opportunities, again, to support their learning. And so this is the new student performance evaluation forum. It is quite different than what you have seen in the past. If you have been a preceptor before with the UVC dietetics program, you'll note that it's 2 pages versus the previous document, which got up to 17 pages. So again, it's going to take a little bit to get used to and kind of practice with, but again, came from lots of feedback from people over time. So I'm going to highlight some of the key differences in this evaluation form for you to note. So this evaluation form is entirely student-led and completed. There is no longer a preceptor portion of the form that you need to complete. The same evaluation form is used for every placement, regardless of whether they are doing a nutrition care or population health focused placement. The student will start a new form for every distinct placement. So they will start with a blank form when they come to you, and they will complete it twice, once for midpoint progress and once for end of placement progress discussions. There are no longer ratings or rankings of performance. So we no longer have that 1 to 3 rating that we had in the past. Evaluation form is reviewed by the student and preceptor. So although the student fills it out, they are prompted to meet with you, their preceptor, in the midpoint and end to review it and talk about discrepancies or anything different. And then the student will submit it to the UVC course instructor after for review. If there are any concerns at all with the student's performance, then we do want to have conversations about it. And we consider the students and us at UVC and yourself as preceptors to all work together to help identify when there's performance issues and how we can support students through those. And support you as preceptors through those too. And I think it's back to you for this part, Tamar.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. So there are many people and groups involved in practice education. We actually have a dedicated policy that articulates the roles and responsibilities of the program and preceptors, as well as students and other partners with regards to practice education placements. This is called Practice Education Roles and Responsibilities. We posted a link to our policies earlier in the chat. Find that there. Ellie may want to post it again. I want to take a look right now. So I'm going to highlight some of the key roles involved in practice education, but do check out that policy if you're craving more information. This section is really meant to be for reference purposes. So it is, I just want to recognize it is kind of wordy on the slides, but hopefully it will be useful for you after the session today if you do want to look back at it for reference purposes, since this will become available online, as I said earlier. Now, in terms of student roles, I guess what we really wanted to make clear and explicit is that students are really expected to take an active and self-directed role in their learning. Us as educators here at UBC and all of you as preceptors, you're going to be providing structure and support for student learning, but ultimately students do need to take ownership of demonstrating the learning outcomes and communicating proactively if there are any barriers to learning that come up for them. So as Ali just said, students are going to be filling out their evaluation forms and leading the evaluation meetings, and then they will be submitting their evaluation documents to us at UBC. And I did just see there was a question in the chat, and we will be collecting the questions as to whether or not there's a place for preceptor comments on the evaluation forms. And the answer to that is no. The students are taking the entire role for doing the documentation on those evaluation forms. And I'll jump to the preceptor responsibilities. One moment. So as preceptors, you provide day-to-day supervision of students during their placements, and you're selecting and offering learning experiences in your placement setting that will give students the opportunity to demonstrate the learning outcomes. And the intention of doing so is to do so within the framework of a safe and supportive learning environment. So you'll be interacting with and observing students throughout their placements on a day-to-day basis. And then through that, you'll be sharing performance feedback. Now, feedback includes you contributing to the student evaluation discussions, and that will occur during evaluation meetings at midpoint and end of placement. But also, there's going to be lots of opportunity to provide ongoing and regular feedback on a more daily basis. And we've really prompted our students to start to think about what kind of feedback works for them and what makes for an effective feedback conversation, and to lead that conversation with you towards the beginning of their placements. So we ultimately ask that you get in touch with us at UBC if there is anything to discuss about a student placement, and that could be concerns, feedback, general questions you have, or to let us know how things are going, even in the positive. We like to hear when things are going well as well. The earlier, the better. So if you have any concerns about a student performance and their ability to meet the learning outcomes, we ask that you get in touch with us directly early. So as UBC course instructors, I'm referring to the UBC Dietetics educator team of myself and Ali and Gordon and Kara. So our roles have substantially changed in the new program structure in that we are acting as course instructors and advisors. So we are providing direct teaching during placements on Thursdays. So we're gathering with the students weekly all year. So we're going to have a lot more contact with our students than we have in the past. Students are placed in cohorts this year or in groups. There's about 10 students per group, and each group is assigned to one of us as their primary instructor. And the person who is their primary instructor will also be their primary contact during their full year of practice education. The student's direct contact will also be your direct contact when the student is in the placement with you. So your student will be able to tell you who their primary instructor is on day one of their placement. You'll know who to contact to get in touch with us for any student placement or performance needs. So if you have any issues whatsoever that arise that requires any student support or support for yourself as a preceptor and any decision making, especially around performance issues, you and the student should both be reaching out to us and contacting us so we can discuss it. So as instructors, we receive and review the student evaluation forms. We also mark their assignments, as Ali said. And then ultimately, we determine if the student passes their practice education courses. And this is based on a holistic or global assessment of their placement performances in their practice education placements with you, their assignments, as well as their time in class with us on Thursdays. We directly support you as preceptors too, and I've said this a few times, but we really encourage you to contact us early and often. And we work with many partner organizations. Partner organizations are the sites that you're all working in. So these look really different depending on the kind of work you do and the organization you work in. They can range from individually owned private practices to all of the large health authorities in BC. And the type and the role of the placement organizations that the students are placed in, it really varies. So we couldn't place students without the support of the organizations that you own and work in and work from. Ultimately, depending on the type of placement organization you work in, the sites may help identify and schedule preceptors and also ensure onboarding activities are met that are needed to get them on site, as some examples. Depending on where you work as well, your placement site might be able to be good resources to help you identify site-based policies or specific resources for students to complete in the first couple weeks of their placement in order to support their transition to the placement at your site. So this slide has direct clickable links. We're going to be posting this again on our website so that you have access to all of the resources that we talked about today. And this is meant just to share with you so that you know it's here and that you know that anything we've posted in the chat is available through the slides that will be up on our website shortly. So as we wrap up today, I wanted to acknowledge that there are a lot of changes in practice education this year. Change can often feel really chaotic, like a storm, and in the unknown of what's going to happen next. But there can be some excitement too in finding the light and the beauty as new beginnings begin to unfold. And we wanted to thank you for being on this journey with us. Obviously, we could not do this without you. A majority of the changes that we made are really a result of the feedback over the years from you as preceptors and also our students. So we do have a preceptor experience survey. We're going to be sending that out a couple times during the practice education year so we can capture your experiences in the placements close to when they happen and be sure that we create opportunities for all of you to be able to provide feedback about your experiences. So thank you for joining today's Preceptor Orientation and for supporting the UBC Dietetics undergraduate program.